Hey there, Jamie with Brazelton Realty here. Are you going insane with how high housing prices are? Are you finding it hard to swallow? Well, let's look at some things that might make it a little bit more palatable for you to buy a property that seems to have such a high price, because right now we're seeing interest really low. So I'm going to compare and contrast a low interest rate versus a high price versus a high interest rate versus a low price, and we'll see where the money actually shakes out on these two scenarios. Now here on this channel, we talk about everything real estate related, specifically to Northern Colorado. So if this is something that's of interest to you, please hit the subscribe button and the like button, and we will continue with this video. All right, so today we are going to compare and contrast the high interest rate with a low purchase price of a house to the low interest rate with a high purchase price of a house. And so what I'm doing is I'm figuring we've got about $50,000 to put down on a property. Now in my scenario one, when we look at what the market is today, when the price of real estate is pretty high, but interest rates are really, really low. Let's say we buy a $400,000 house and our interest is going to be 3.125, 3.25%, which is fairly common right now. Let's use that as our baseline for the low interest, and let's see how this works out. All right, so when we look at our low interest of 3.125%, 3.25%, it brings our payment of that $400,000 house to $1,945 a month. Now, remember, that is with a $50,000 down payment, and that's also including taxes and insurance. And I'm keeping that the same for both of these scenarios. Now, the thing you want to pay attention to is your payment is $1,945, but let's say you pay that off in 30 years, which is what I have this figured at. Your interest that you're going to pay on that note is $189,000. So that's a lot of interest, right? But that's at the 3.125%. So let's look at what higher interest but a lower purchase price would look like. All right, so we have the $50,000 we're going to put down. This time, we're going to buy a $300,000 house. Now, it's $100,000 cheaper than the $400,000, obviously, but we're going to be paying 6.5% APR on that note. Now, you might be saying 6.5%, wow, that's outrageous. Well, since 2015, we haven't really seen interest that high before. My gut is telling me we're going to see interest rates at that percentage again. That's the percentage it was when I bought my first property here in Greeley, Colorado, and that was 15 years ago. So it's not outside the realm of possibilities to get back to a 6.5% APR or higher. Now, when we go to purchase that $300,000 house at a 6.5% APR, our payment is going to be $1,984, which is roughly the same as our $400,000 house was with a lower interest. In fact, it's a little bit higher. It's about $40 a month higher. But that's not really that big of a deal, right? That's kind of a wash when it comes to the payment. The shocker is when you look at the interest that you're going to have paid over the life of that loan, and that is $318,000. You see, this is where interest is really a big deal. If you have a house that is more expensive, yeah, you're going to be making the same payment with a lower interest versus a higher interest with a lower purchase price, but the interest you're going to pay over the life of that loan is going to be substantially more the higher that interest rate is. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us here. Housing prices are going up. And right now, this is April of 2021, and housing prices, quite frankly, are just going bananas. But interest is still relatively low. That being said, interest is not going to stay there. In fact, we have started to see over the last couple months interest starting to creep itself back up. I don't think in the next couple months or 3 or 4 months we're gonna see it get to a really high number, but it is going up. So if you haven't refinanced, please make sure you do that. But if you're looking at buying a house, now's the time to do it, because I don't foresee housing prices going down, but I do foresee interest rates going up. And the more you pay on interest, the more it's gonna cost you exponentially more down the road. So please take my advice and look at making a change now versus waiting until something changes. Now, I hope this is helpful for you. Buying a house is no small undertaking, and I understand that in this market, it is extremely stressful. But there are lots of ways that you can go about getting it done and making sure that your family is going to be financially more secure now or down the road than they are now. So my advice to you is to not wait, is to get in the market as soon as you can and try to get yourself to a place that is going to be healthier for you, whether that's refinancing or whether that's going out and purchasing the house that you want to live in for the rest of your life. Now, I am going to put some videos up here of some different rural areas that are small but not too small. They're really bedroom communities that you might want to consider. I know they are growing at an extreme rate, and get into those areas now while the price is still pretty reasonable, because I don't foresee them going down in the near future.